Hello again, and welcome to the Whiskey Novice Whiskey Reviews. Staying with Bushmills Distillery for, as I said, one of the first few video reviews I'm going to be making. This one is video review number 3, and this time we're looking at this out of hand Black Bush from Bushmills Distillery. Let's get some in the glass, give it a chance to settle. Almost a pop. As you can see, we're moving up in the production. Those the first two are reviewed. Definitely budget range. This is still about budget range, but now you get a cork, and you get a little more description on what's going on. In this case, it's telling us that Black Bush contains a high proportion of single malt matured in Oloroso sherry casks, creating a deep, intense character and incredible smoothness. Well, we will see about that. It also now says that it's rich and smooth, rather than smooth and rounded. So, a bit of a change in tack. It's still 40% ABV. Matured to perfection in sherry casks. You know, to a certain extent, one thing will tell you different from the other, because I wouldn't imagine all of it's mature in sherry casks. It's still a blend, so you know there's still certain stuff going in there to make it Bushmills blended whiskey, and then a proportion of it is matured in Oloroso sherry casks. Still, as I say, still blended. Don't know that there's a whole lot more I can tell you about Black Bush. It's been around a long time, like most of their blends. As they say, it's matured in sherry casks, so let's see on the nose where that translates. Yeah, I would agree straight away that, you know, that fresh fruit which was there, which is prominent, I find in most Bushmills blends, most Bushmills whiskey, full stop. There is a nice fresh white fruit, apple, grapes, of certain ones have found banana, and you know, and it's definitely there, but there's an underlying or an over. It's overpowering. It's certainly not overpowering, but there's something else there, which is obviously the sherry influence. And I don't know whether it works or not for me, in that there's something else there, a funk which I'm not terribly fond of, and it's right in the background. I'm gonna suggest a baby's nappy, which I know isn't very pleasant, but that's what I'm getting. Sometimes you don't get very pleasant things on them, and sometimes not very pleasant things work. But in this case, certainly on the nose, it's not working for me. It's strange. It's just there at the back of everything else. I don't know that it's entirely off-putting. Not that any of us would imagine likes the smell of a baby's nappy, but it's just it's enough there now that the suggestion's in my head to do, you know. But I'm going to go in. I'm going to try it anyway and see. You see that? Yeah. That is the first one of the range, of the core range, that I've found that the nose actually does translate into the palate more. Anyway, not completely into the palate, but more so, and which is not necessarily a good thing whenever you're finding notes like baby's nappy in there. It's not entirely unpleasant. There is sherry influence there, not an awful lot. I mean, for them to say that a single malt in it somewhere spent a lot of time in Oloroso casks is basically what they're suggesting. Is it? I mean, is it the best of their core range yet? No, I think I still prefer the Red Bush to it, to be honest. I still prefer the sweetness of the Red Bush, and there's more of a delicate thing of the Red Bush. Now, this is just my initial thoughts. I mean, once again, I'm reviewing this as we speak. I've no notes written down. I haven't had this for quite a while. It's certainly got more going on than any of the rest of them so far. Once again, I'll add a little, very little water. Might not get anything off this at all. There you go. 1, 2. And hopefully that'll be enough to break it up a little. I don't know if you can even get that breaking up much. But there's legs on it. It's typical Bushmills colours. Quite a bit of legs on that actually. You can. I don't know if you really pick the legs up on the camera, but it's certainly got something going on. And this always amazes me with Bushmills whiskey, which is bottled at 40%. How much oil remains. And obviously they've thinned it down to a point of 40%. Yeah, those 2 drops of water have brought the sherry forward. So there's a darker thing going on now all of a sudden. The freshness has started to peel away a bit on the sides, and the dark thing's coming up through the centre. Very much so. Darker fruit. Even fruit cake, it's getting more of that fruit cake thing. And it's improved the palate. It's taken that funk out of it. And it's quite a lengthy finish on it. There's no... With these, the first 3 whiskies I've tried here, the first 3 Bushmills in the range, if you like that thing in the finish, that burn, that bite, because it's not, I mean, it puts people off whiskey. There's no denying it. If you're new to whiskey, it's the first thing generally that people go, oh no, that just burns the whole way down. That's something to say. And the opposite to that then is, oh, that's smooth. And it's 2 things that you'll find that once you get really into whiskey don't matter the same anymore, in that burn starts to become something. It's how do I describe that burn? Is it pepper? Is it chili? Is it cinnamon? Is it, it's a different kind of you know yourself that with each of those spices there's a different burn. And an awful lot more. And this, and certainly with the first 3 whiskies of the Bushmills range, the finish doesn't bring an awful lot. There's something there. There's no denying it. But it tends to sort of lie around at the end of the palate and then just go. It's not actually, the finish is then described, if you hear whiskey reviewers describing the finish as short, it's just gone. There's nothing to remember, until you go back into that glass again, you can't remember what this whiskey's doing. So, and the other thing is then once it starts to coat the palate, starts to coat your tongue, that first experience, or not even necessarily the first experience, but your second sip maybe is gone. you start to lose it again as well, you know. And this is what the adding of the water even did. It'll change it up a little. But you know, that experience does not last very long with this. Doesn't last very long with the core range. The first three. I keep talking about the core range, but I'm going to hit on at least another two before I move away from Bushmills, and only because, as I said before, it's here in my home county of County Antrim, and I've had issues with Bushmills in the past, issues with Bushmills whiskey and the distillery. Not that we've discussed any of this, myself and the distillery, but I've certainly discussed it with other people, and I'll get into that. Not right away. I have a couple more or one more that I want to do, and then I'll get into it. But it's just and it annoys me a little bit that I have these issues with them, because there are distillery to a certain extent. You know, it's 40 miles up the road, which isn't a whole lot. It's a grand old distillery, and I don't like having issues with it, but there's just things that they do which I have issues with. Their core range whiskey is inexpensive. It's all really budget bourbon, or budget Irish. Only whenever you sort of reach Black Bush do you start to step up a bit by adding a cork. Just you know there's a wee bit, just a bit more effort put in there, not an awful lot. And now that that's settled a while, the sherry has all mellowed down again, and that fresh fruit thing's back. It's just alright. It's yet again, when I say about Bushmills being hit and miss, this is a bit of a miss again for me. Yet again, I'll not score it. I'll not give it any points out of anything. When this bottle's finished, my very early core range Bushmills sits at the back of I have a cabinet specifically for Irish whiskey, which is burst into the doors now, and my white, red and Black Bush are poked right at the back of it, because I don't reach for them. I'm not really gonna go for them. They certainly wouldn't be my favourite Irish budget whiskey. But that's just between me and it. So for now, I'll leave it and say, listen, thank you very much again. Cheers, your good health. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.